Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of Robbie's Backstage Bants. Today I'm joined by the lovely Ben Bogen. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Just kind of biding my time in New York City, doing
Yeah,
random gigs, teaching
awesome.
virtually a lot, and just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, good. You mean you look nice and cozy and warm there in your big coat.
Yeah,
That's
dude, I
good.
just laughed and it was like air.
Yeah,
Totally
that's
in my-
actually really cool. Um, so we're gonna chat all things about your career, but first, what I want to ask is how have you been coping then with sort of no Broadway and no big sort of performances? Obviously, you've been doing little gigs, but how have you sort of coped with that?
Um, you know, it's not easy.
Hmm.
I think I would be lying if I said like, this is like a time for me to really work on me and like blah, blah, blah. Like that's what I
Yeah.
was saying for a little while. I was like, this is great. Like I don't have to stress about the things I normally stressed about.
Yeah.
But, I try to take little victories. I did a TV audition the other day for like
Wow.
a big show, and
There you go.
all from taking a class with the casting director. And I emailed them and I said, I think I'm really right for this, please keep me in mind. And so I got a
Awesome.
self-tape from it. Now, I probably didn't get the job as often. Most of the time you don't.
Well, yeah.
But for me, that was a huge victory because I had never had like a big self-tape audition for a major TV show before.
Hmm,
And so I took that as a little victory.
definitely.
Um, and I was let go from my agency in the fall.
Wow.
And at first that felt like this huge slap in the face from the universe.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel that way. But then, recently I just found like a new agency to freelance with. So,
Awesome.
and that took me like reaching out to a lot of people and just believing in myself. And I think that, I wrote like a comedy sketch with friends over the summer, and I
Right.
did a lot of social media creative work for Broadway for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like running their TikTok and like kind of not really knowing what the hell I was doing, and just
Wow.
kind of just getting my friends to make silly videos with me and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think just I thrive off of having something to do and something creative to make. And so I've just been doing that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you've been able to keep busy with some things throughout as well, because
Yeah.
it's been a while, hasn't it? So hopefully we can get back to normal as soon as possible. Don't want to jinx it
Yeah.
though or anything. So my first question today is about how you got to where you are. So my first full question is, what is the journey of how you got to where you are today? So how did you start?
Yeah. First off, I just want to say that this means so much that you wanted to take the time
No,
like
absolutely.
to talk with me, because so often I have always sort of felt like in the wings as a performer, because I was the alternate for Frankie Valli and Jersey Boys. I
Mhm.
was in the understudy in Frozen. I only went on for the Duke of Weselton once. I never went on for Olaf.
Mhm.
um and in other shows I've done, newer shows, I was like a swing, or I covered a lead or whatever. And
Yeah.
so often we get kind of overlooked, or we get kind of not recognized.
Yeah.
So often they only care about the person playing the role. And so I think there was a while where I started putting this like unbelievable unnecessary amount of pressure on myself to like, the next job I get, I have to like be playing the role. Like I have
Yeah.
to be playing the role, because like that's the only way that like people
People are
will think I
recognized.
am worthy, or like validated, or like like that I will matter. So I always appreciate doing stuff like this.
No.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I started doing shows as a kid. I loved it. It was like this really wonderful escape from sort of feeling like an outsider kid.
Yeah.
um you know I wasn't a big sports person.
Mhm.
um I did competitive martial arts with my dad though.
Oh
So I
wow.
think that made me like a really disciplined person. Like it made me really disciplined and
Yeah.
athletic in a different way. Like not athletic in like catching a ball, but athletic in like I had to, it was stamina. It was good athleticism. And like I had to
Yeah.
break boards, and I had to learn lots of like karate, kata. Like it almost felt like dance. These
Yeah.
like these movement forms. And I loved it because to me, it felt like dance. And so it was like learning choreography. And in karate they make you like find they call it like your kia. It's like your your force behind what you do.
All
So you
right.
don't just like punch, but you're like, you know. And so because of that, when I learned how to dance later on, when I started in high school and I started to take dance class, I sort of found that I had this like snap and pop to like my movements when I danced that sort of kind of, I started to get positive feedback, like, you really stand out when you dance. And so I was like, cool.
Nice.
But I had to, you know, take a lot of ballet and like kind of get technique, you know. And then I went to the University of Michigan for musical theater and did that, and then moved to New York and, you know, found representation through a showcase I did in New York. And 6 months later, got my first job in an out-of-town tryout of a world premiere musical that, you know, kind of never went anywhere after Toronto.
Wow.
Then 3 months after that, Jersey Boys, toured for a year. And then 3 months after that, made my Broadway debut in Frozen. And then did that for 14 weeks, left, played Pepper in Mamma Mia for 3 weeks regionally, came back into Frozen a second time, learned a new ensemble role in 4 days, and did that for a month, had 3 days off or 4 days off or something, and then did The Flamingo Kid at Hartford Stage, another world premiere where I was understudying the lead. Finished that, went back into Frozen for 2 weeks, no put in, no anything. They were just like, you remember it. And then, and I injured my shoulder. And then, so I took a couple months to rest it. And then I found myself in finals for a Broadway show, didn't get it, was about to, and then didn't get it. That was really devastating. And then went back into Frozen a fourth time and kind of was like, I think I'm frozened out. Like I sort of was like, you know, I was grateful for the job and the consistency and, you know, the fact that there was a Broadway show that kept like asking me to come back is, you know, I always tried to remind myself that like, that's not normal. Like, you know, like to have that is like, you're among the 1% of performers who have that. So I was, you know, I was grateful for that, but I also, because I was always filling in, I just never felt like I was there being me. I felt like I was filling in as so-and-so or as so-and-so. And so then I booked this like off-Broadway musical called Only Human from an open call. I just went for fun.
Wow.
And I got it. And it starred Gary Busey, who's like a crazy celebrity.
Wow.
And he's very, very out there. And the show was supposed to run for like 4 months. And instead we closed after 1 week. We closed on my 27th birthday. Which was it was like kind of funny because I didn't really love doing the show. So when it closed, I was sort of like, thank God. But I also was like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of a job after my birthday. And then I just did a lot of press gigs for Jersey Boys. I would travel wherever they needed me to like perform for a day to promote the tour. And I was just auditioning a lot. And that's kind of where it led me up to the pandemic.
Yeah. And then, you know, everything's been on hold since.
Yeah.
But hopefully you'll get back out there the minute it's back. I mean, I'm sure you will. You'll be there. They'll be needing a lot of performers by this point. They'll be needing a ton. So don't you worry. Hang in there. The next question is, did you ever have any other career paths in mind? Like, was there something else you wanted to go down before you chose performing, or was it always performing?
It was always performing. Yeah. I love teaching though. Like I love working with kids and teens and college students. And I was just flown to North Carolina and taught down there. I think I'm going to South Carolina in April to teach.
Wow.
So yeah, I love it.
Great.
It's my favorite thing.
I mean, when you can do, you know, performing and teaching at the same time as well, it must be good.
Yeah.
So now we're going to sort of jump into a chat about your career. Now, obviously, as it was your debut, let's talk about Frozen first, your Broadway debut, should I say. So how did you feel when you sort of first got the job and you knew you were going to be making your Broadway debut?
In Frozen, I was ecstatic. I was terrified. I was nervous. I think it's really intimidating joining a new group of people who already have an established groove, an established relationship, an established like
100%
vibe. I was a lot younger than everyone, so I think I was very eager to do a good job. I was very eager to fit in. I think unfortunately I did spend a bit of time questioning like whether I, you know, belonged there. I think it's I think it's weird when you go from touring and you just, travel with everybody and you hang out with everyone all the time. And it's like this really huge camaraderie to Broadway where people just show up, do the job, do the show, and then go home. So it was different, but it was still, I'll never forget. I had 16 friends in the audience.
Wow.
My Broadway debut, and I think I almost pissed myself.
I bet. So you must have seen the film before you went into the show. I can imagine you saw.
Yeah.
Had you seen
I
the show
never thought I fit. I never thought that would be my show that I made my Broadway debut in.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously you did, and you covered Olaf and Wesselton, but you didn't get on for Olaf, did you? So
no, I did what's funny is I did full run throughs, like full understudy put-ins from start to finish.
Wow.
Like full, and in costume. But I never did it in front of an audience, and I always sort of never felt that I felt prepared in the sense that my rehearsals occasionally, but not prepared in the sense that it didn't feel really in my body. It felt like if I had gone on, it would have been really sloppy and I would have been faking it. And because that puppet was just so difficult and you really needed to you need to be in it every day to kind of find your muscle memory of it. So it felt like every time I was in it, I just remember being so hard on myself and just being why am I not feeling comfortable in this every time I do this? And it's because you're thinking about the hand and then the other hand and then the eye blinking and the eyebrows and the moving around and then your lines and your and then you're in this hot coat and it's just it was so many things that it was just I never felt amazing at it. But I think that was really humbling that shows always throw things at you that you don't know how to do, and you just sort of have to be well, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you did get on for Wesselton.
I did once.
What was that like?
I was really sick that week.
Oh, no.
I had a really, really, really bad throat cough thing. I really was struggling to speak. So I was on a throat syrup, a cough syrup, a steroid, I was just on all the meds, and I had called out of the matinee because I couldn't talk. I was coughing so much. It was not serving anyone, me being there.
Yeah.
And I called out of the matinee, and then that evening I had a feeling that I might go on for Duke Wesselton because the guy playing it, Bobby, I think he was out that week or something. He had some designated personal days, and the other understudy, Austin, was actually really cool and went to stage management and was dude, it's Ben's last week here. I don't want to do it. Let Ben go on. And so I'm trying to take a hot shower, and I get out of the shower and I get a call from one of the assistant stage managers, and they're like, hey, Ben, we'd like you to go on for Duke Wesselton tonight. And I was it was this mix of being yay, and also holy crap, I don't know whether I can even speak right now. So it was one of those. So that made it really, of course, it made it extra stressful and made me extra wound up because I was on so many meds, and I just I wanted to do my best, and it made it very challenging, but I also was I have to do this.
You gotta do it.
So yeah, and it was fun. And Broadway's Taylor Amon Jones was in the audience seeing me that night. She was just there to see me in the ensemble. And so I got to call her and be like, hey, Taylor, surprise, surprise. I'm making my principal Broadway debut tonight. And I saw her principal Broadway debut in Groundhog Day when she went on for Rita, the female lead. And Taylor's going to be the lead in the Devil Wears Prada musical. She's going to be the Anne Hathaway character. We've known each other since I was 16. So it was we're actually this fall, it'll be our 10-year anniversary of being friends, doing a regional theater production of Rent. So it was very cool that she was there in the audience. I always am grateful for that, even though I may have blacked out and I don't remember.
I don't blame you there. So that was Frozen, and obviously before Frozen you did Jersey Boys.
Yeah.
I love the music in Jersey Boys.
Me too.
Got some solid tunes in there. So what was the experience of Jersey Boys for you then?
Oh, it was the best. The first 3 months were really tough
Mhm.
because a lot was being expected of me as assistant dance captain
Yeah.
and a swing, and being fully ready to go on as Frankie, such a hard role. And I
Yeah.
had never played a lead like that before. I had never carried a show. I had never done anything like that. Basically, yeah, it was the best experience. Once I got over myself and like realized like I can do this, like I am stronger than I think. And I was singing Sherry on the treadmill like every day in my hotel. I went on within the first week and it was awesome. And then later on, the guy who I understudied like broke his foot or something, and so I got to play the role a bunch. I went on like 51 times. So to find that stamina and find the groove of getting to do it every day, and like I just felt like a superhero. I felt like a badass. Like by the end of the show, I was just like, wow, like I have never put myself physically through something like this before, and it was the greatest feeling in the world. It was like feeling like I was accomplishing something that was beyond my wildest dreams. Like even more so than Frozen. I think Jersey Boys will always be like that thing that I did that I'm like most proud of.
Yeah, I completely get you on that. I mean, it must have been special, and you're on the tour with it as well, so you were all over the place with it.
Yeah, at 79 cities.
That is, I keep forgetting. Obviously, for you got it's like a lot bigger over there. When we do a tour over here, there's about 15 venues.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time.
So Jersey Boys was magical, especially because we played two cities that were really close to my hometown.
Oh wow!
So I had like that one show in Sacramento, I had like 75 people in the audience, and then in San Jose, there was one show where I had 100 people from my hometown in the audience seeing me carry the musical.
Carry the entire show.
And it feels like another life. It really feels like it feels like I did that and I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah,
Which is crazy.
magic. That's how you did it. I bet it must feel amazing though, like carrying the show and then taking your bow.
It was scary. It was really scary because I wanted it to be good. Like I wanted it to be like my best performance yet, and I was playing the role all week in San Jose. So I remember I was just like really tired and I wanted to go full out every show. So by the time I got to that Friday night when everyone was there, I was already like, whoa. It's really like, no one can truly describe to you like what it is like to sing 8 times a week in a role where you sing 25 songs. You can't like sing your guts out every show. You like have to find places to kind of preserve and like pull back a bit. Otherwise you get to that 8th show and you just think like this is awful.
Yeah, I bet it's quite a vocally challenging role as well, so
yeah, I mean like if I ever had to do it again, I think I would be like, I need a few weeks of like singing that stuff every day on the treadmill. Your stamina has to be so strong because you're doing all this movement and you're moving around and you do all this yelling and like you do all this scene work and then you have to just like go out there and like it's a muscle.
insane. Yeah, absolutely. Now obviously you've done you mentioned Only Human and lots of other regional productions that you've done, but I think it's time to move to the fans questions. Dun, dun, dun. I feel like there should be some dramatic music going on there. So the first question is from Trevor, and Trevor's asked, if you forget a line on stage, what do you do?
Well, what's funny is there's 2 moments that I can think of. One time during Jersey Boys, I was singing Fallen Angel, the very end. It's like my daughter has just died and I'm like singing this sad ballad and I started to sing the wrong verse. And so I was like, Fallen Angel. I was like, got a demon in your soul. And then I was like, you can't. Fallen Angel. I just took this like weird pause because I had a moment where I was like, I don't know where I am. Like I had 2 seconds where I had to like kind of figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
But it was like Rapid City, South Dakota. So I don't think anyone, noticed. And that was also like that was the second time I had ever gone on, I think.
Ooh.
So I remember it was like a little bit like wonky, like it just had been a minute. It's really like, I mean, it's really scary going on for understudy stuff when you don't do it very often. It's just like your brain is just going a mile a minute, and you can't like feel relaxed or settled. You're like, that when I finally was doing it all the time, I was like, this is so liberating, because now I can just like breathe and like enjoy and not be like, well, like, you know. So that happened. And then in Frozen, of course, because there was like jitters, first and only time going on as Duke Wesselton.
Yeah.
There was a scene where I was like, I was supposed to say, of course she does. Everyone knows nothing good can come from magic, especially in the hands of a woman. And I said, of course she does. Everyone knows nothing good can come from a person who is a woman. Like, I mean, I just full on forgot the word magic. Like, the word magic left my vocabulary.
Doesn't exist no more. No.
And I was so mad at myself, because I remember being like, like, there's no way that line like wasn't there. It's just like in that moment I went into a black cloud. I went into a dark room and I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
So for 2 seconds, I remember being like, a person who is, like, I knew I had to get to woman, but it was like I couldn't remember what I had just said. And I was just like, I don't know if anything I just said made any sense. And like at the end of the day, it's still kind of like a sexist line. So I guess it still worked. I just like managed to forget about magic. So I just said, everyone knows nothing good comes from a woman.
I think that makes the line a little bit worse, to be honest.
A little bit worse. A little bit like, ooh.
Just a bit.
I remember John Riddle, who played Prince Hans at the time. He just sort of like looked at me and was like I could tell he knew that I said something different, but he also like sort of was just like processing it, and then also was sort of like holding in his laughter. Good times. It also was so funny for the cast. It was so funny for the cast because they had never seen me do it before. And I was like the youngest Duke of Wesselton in history. So yeah, because like, you know, Bobby's like a dad of you know, has kids and stuff. And Jeremy and Austin, his two covers, like they're both in their, you know, later 30s, early 40s. And so when I went on, I was like this 25-year-old Duke Wesselton. So it was just like very, very different, which is kind of cool. I kind of pride myself on the fact that like I was like the youngest Frankie Valli to do it as much as I did. And I was the youngest Duke Wesselton, and you know, like I was the youngest. I was one of the youngest guys to join Frozen. Like one of the, like there was a swing there in the cast who was my age. But like as a new cast member coming in as a replacement for a medical leave, like I was the youngest. So felt pretty cool.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. So the next question is from Olivia, and Olivia's asked, what was your favorite thing about Jersey Boys?
When I think back, like it would be that moment when I would finish Can't Take My Eyes Off You. Also, because I would just be very tired by that point in the show, and I'd be like, my brain would be like, are you good? Like, are you gonna get through this? Like, you're gonna be able to get through working my way back to you after this? Like, so many thoughts going through my head. Am I hydrated enough? Whatever. But I remember I would like get to the end of Can't Take My Eyes Off You, and like the audience applause always was just like, it was, no one had ever applauded for me, Ben Bogen, like that before, where like it's me, the stage, the sort of band, and like the microphone, and like to do a show where yes, it was me up there, but I had so many friends come and be like, yeah, I knew I was watching you, but I forgot I was watching you. Like I was like watching Frankie Valli, like a night with Frankie Valli or Frankie Valli's story. So to hear that and to be able to feel like I was able to truly lose myself in another person's story was just like one of those things in life that I will always be really, really humbled by. And especially because I remember I saw it in high school on tour with my dad, and never thought in a million years that that was like a role I was right for, a role I would play, or whatever. So I think that just like every time I would finish working every time I would finish Can't Take My Eyes Off You, I would just have this moment of gratitude, where I just you're gonna get me emotional here on this Zoom. I would just have this moment, just like I never thought that I would accomplish something like that when I was like 24. And it's crazy because I was doing it on tour, and so no one in New York saw what I was doing. So it was weird to come back to New York and feel like I did this huge thing that no one saw. But like in these smaller towns, like I felt like it. I felt like I was doing the thing. I was doing the thing that I set out to do.
Yeah.
And that was like, I just was always reminded of that in this moment, because really, like, Can't Take My Eyes Off You is like the first time you really get an applause in Act 2. And so I just remember being like, it was this like, whew, I did it. And then it was also like, wow, they're applauding. They're still applauding. They're applauding for me. Well, they're applauding for Frankie Valli, but they're applauding for me playing Frankie Valli. And they're still applauding. And you're supposed to have this moment where you're supposed to be like so humbled by like everyone applauding, but then they think that it's like the actor like breaking character. But it's supposed to be like Frankie Valli like realizing that the song is a hit. But it was always like me being like, wow, like this is a moment that I get to have right now. And yeah, no matter what kind of mood I was in or how I was feeling about myself or my performance that night, like that moment always was just magic.
I bet. I can only imagine. So the next question is from Lindsay, and Lindsay's asked, do you prefer touring or staying in like one theater, like static on Broadway?
You know, I think that I've always really loved travel. I've always kind of loved the just like, you're here for a bit, pack it up, next place, new sights, new stimulating like sensations and new theater, new things to explore. I kind of loved that. I loved that I didn't have to worry about like dealing with an apartment and dealing with like life routine stuff. There's like a nice kind of escape from reality and escape from adulting when you're on tour. But what I will say was like being on Broadway allowed me to like be in the city and see the shows that were happening in the city and reestablish my friendships with people in the city and like take class in the city and like learn how to be a functioning adult. And that was not easy. That was actually really not easy, because I would do the 8 shows a week and I would have a hard time being energetic enough to do anything else. So it's different. It's very, very different. But when you're in New York, you know, you can have these casting directors know who you are, and you can be a part of projects. You can be a part of like new up and coming projects. And I think that you can't really be a part of something like that when you're on the road, and you can't have creative teams and casting directors and like, you can't have them like know who you are if you're always on the road. So I think about that a lot. I think about like, well, if I go out on the road when this is all over, people will forget who I am. And I think that I'm sort of weirdly in this place where, unless it's like a role of a lifetime,
you don't want to do it.
I think that I don't know. I've stuck it out so far during this pandemic. It would feel, you know. But so they're different. But I think that touring definitely kept it fresh. Broadway, it's very repetitive. You truly are like, I'm doing the same thing every day and nothing is really changing except who's on. So you really got to add variety to your personal life. Otherwise, like, your show will feel monotonous and like it won't be as exciting. Like, you have to keep it exciting for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Your next question's from Evie, and Evie asked, what was your favorite thing about Frozen?
My favorite thing about Frozen, I think just that to make my Broadway debut in a show that everyone knew. You know what I mean? It's not like you're like, I'm in a Broadway show that's obscure and like what it's like you're like, oh, what show are you in? Frozen. Oh, you know what I mean?
Oh
Like it's
yeah.
like that. It's just like that initial recognition. Um, so to know that every night I was going on stage and it was someone's first time seeing a Broadway show,
Yeah.
that was really cool. To be able to call like Casey Levy and Patty Murin like coworkers was really
That's insane.
like that was so. I mean, I would have moments where I would just be like what? Um, like there was one time where I was walking down the stairs going to get my wig on, and Casey was walking up to her dressing room, and she's like in her full Elsa wig, makeup,
Wow.
her braid, like all of it, but she's in like sweatpants and like a sweatshirt.
Wow.
And it's so funny. It's just so funny that like I don't know. It's like hilarious. It's hilarious, just like what you see on stage, and then like what we look like when we're like half in costume, like walking in a wig cap to like get our. I think that's just like the funniest part is that like
I bet.
it's magical, and then you're also like, yeah, this is us like doing a job, and there are days where we're grumpy, and there are days where we're tired, and
Definitely.
there are days where we're frustrated, and there are days where so and so gets in a tiff with so and so. Like what like I mean, as normal any other office job, like not every day is sunshine and rainbows. It's like the same situation in a Broadway show. Like sometimes you're doing a show and you really don't feel well. There was one show I did where my stomach felt awful the entire time, and doing the show was almost unbearable. Like because I thought I was going to throw up the whole
Yeah.
time.
Wow.
And this pandemic has brought up so many thoughts. It's like the fact that we push ourselves to do that kind of stuff, like the fact that you show up to the theater even when you're hacking up a lung, even when you're sick as a dog because you're afraid of like losing your sick days or being judged by others for like calling out too many times. I
Mhm.
feel like that culture is going to really change. Like when theater reopens, it's going to be like, oh, you're sick, don't freaking show up to the theater.
No, no.
Like, and I think that there used to be this weird shaming that would happen. Like I remember right when I got into Frozen, about a couple weeks later, I started coughing up a lung because the Broadway theaters have a lot of dust and a lot of mold in them just from having been around for years and years.
Yeah.
So I was like struggling, and singing through it was like wrecking my chords. So I remember I called out, and I had something on my Instagram story of me like going to the CVS to get meds because I was like, can't talk. And one of my castmates, I remember, messaged me and was like, you should really be careful of what you put on your social media because you're already calling out. And I remember being so embarrassed because I was like, well, I can't help the fact that like being in this theater
Wow.
gave me a mini black lung, and that that the smart thing the ENT told me to do was to not sing on it for a day, and that like on Instagram was like going to get medicine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like but it is very interesting of just like always being mindful of just like how when you're if you're someone who calls out of the show, like don't show what you're doing or where you're going, because there are people who call out and then go do something they're not supposed to do.
Mm. Yeah. And the next fan's question is from Millie, and she's asked, what would be your dream role?
I used to sort of think about these things, and then I always was sort of like, I don't ever want to get my hopes up and like not get a chance to play a role that means so much to me. But, like at the end of the day, I think I would love to play Jamie in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
If you go on YouTube, if you go on YouTube, you search Ben Bogen the last 5 years, you'll see me do a couple songs from the show.
Ooh.
Or actually, if you go on my Instagram, there's like two different clips that I have up there of me doing a Moving Too Fast. No, me doing the Shiksa Goddess, and If I Didn't Believe in You. So if you go on them and you like what you see, please share on your story, tag me. Yeah, I would love to play Jamie in the last 5 years. I don't care if I do it in a random theater in Florida, or
Come do it in
as
the
an
UK.
off-Broadway, as a tour, as an off-Broadway revival, whatever. So yeah, I think that, and you know, I'm sort of, as I start to kind of merge away from the possibility of playing high schoolers, which is fine. Like I've sort of accepted that I don't really read as a high schooler anymore. Sometimes maybe like under circumstances, like maybe I could, but I remember I used to want to do Spring Awakening so badly, like
Yeah.
just as anyone. I mean, I played Georg when I did it regionally in high school, and Taylor Iman Jones was the first Black Wendla ever. But you know, it was Georg, so it was like not the most exciting role. But I had, you know, the Fierce Touch Me solo, and I got to like, you know, have the silly thing with my piano teacher, and you know, do all that. But I always wanted to like, you know, either be Hanshin or be Melchior.
Yeah.
I still love all the music in it. I also think that like, I know he's supposed to be like really gawky and like, you know, I don't know, like nerdy-ish, but like I've always like loved the role of like Leo Frank in Parade.
Oh yeah.
And even like Seymour nowadays, like who they cast as they'll cast like, it'll be like Jeremy Jordan or like Jonathan Groff or like all these like sort of not nebbishy people playing Seymour.
Yeah.
So a part of me was like, well, maybe I could be Seymour in Little Shop or
Really
something.
good.
But I also sort of think like maybe the role I'm meant to play, like the dream role that I'm meant to play, like doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe if like by the time a musical is ever made about gay rights and like Harvey Milk or something, like maybe that's my role. Like I don't know. I think that like I would love to play an LGBTQ character on a Broadway stage, and I think that because I have never been able to tell anything close to my story as a person on stage, on screen, whatever. And I think that there would just be something so freeing and liberating and authentic and beautiful about like you know, getting to play a role like that. So I
Definitely.
don't know, maybe that's, if that could be on my
I mean, I'm
horizon.
feeling
I feel
more.
like to play either of the two male leads in falsettos would be magical.
Yes, love falsettos.
Yeah.
So the last thing we're going to do is a little quiz on how well you know Frozen. So don't panic. It can be, it, some of it's difficult, some of it's easy. Don't worry about your score. It's just for a bit of fun. So the first question is awful. I'm so sorry. How many tracks are in the original Broadway cast recording? How many songs in the cast recording? That's a mean one. I know. I'm sorry.
um
There's a lot.
this is gonna take me forever to like, I'm trying to like count it on my finger. I don't know, like I think 18.
22.
Yeah,
It's quite a high number.
I forgot because there's a song on the cast recording. There's a song on the cast recording that's not in the show. That's like a Olaf song that was cut when everything falls apart.
Oh,
So I was like, can we count that? Yeah.
yeah. So the next question is quite an easy one. Who is the voice of Kristoff in the movie? Not in the show, in the movie.
Who's the voice of Kristoff in the Jonathan Groff?
Yeah, I thought it'd be nice with that one. This one,
One of my role models.
yes, I think he's everyone's role model at this point.
Yeah.
Robert Lopez obviously wrote some of the music for Frozen. Which two other Broadway musicals did he write music for?
Avenue Q.
Mm-hmm.
Book of Mormon.
Yes, I was going to say quite similar style of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I love that it's them shows and then Frozen. I think that's hilarious.
Right.
The next one's quite a specific finish to the lyrics, so I'm very sorry. The only lyric you're getting is "I've never met someone." This is anywhere in Frozen.
The musical. Wait.
In both. It's in both. It's not one of the musical only songs.
Can you give me the melody?
I've never met someone.
Oh.
It's really weird because it's
who thinks so much like me.
yeah, exactly. It's really weird one because it's just a tiny line from the middle of random.
I mean, God, I haven't been in the show in such a long time, so it was like,
Oh,
but it's funny because I was always like changing clothes, hanging out. No, I wasn't. That was always like my water break.
oh,
Because we would do the big ball in the coronation, and then we would hear them do "Love Is an Open Door," and then we would come back on to do the moment where we see them kiss, and then we all turn to a random person and start kissing them, and then like it's the scene where she's like, "We're getting married," and then Elsa's like, "No," and then the ice comes and everyone gets scared and runs away.
And the last question for this little quiz is: which characters sing "What Do You Know About Love"?
Anna and Kristoff.
Yeah, I thought I'd be nice there. So,
When I would come out of the stage door and someone would be like, "Oh my God, what was it like being on the bridge? And what do you know about love?" And I was like, "Do you really think I was Kristoff?" I was like, no, aside from the fact that I'm white and like it, I had like a very thick beard, but I still was like,
thank you, but
yeah. There was one time where I came out of the stage door and they were like, "Oh, were you Hans?" And I was like, "No." Like, so always, always my final thing is like always watch that ensemble member on stage and like be excited when that ensemble member comes out of the stage door. You'll make their day.
You want me at your stage doors. I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
So the final few things is firstly, I just want to remind everyone that there will be a donation link to Acting for Others, which is the UK version of the Actors Fund, pretty much.
Oh, cool.
So if anybody wants to donate to that after watching this, it would be greatly appreciated because they do a lot of work for performers and everyone else in the industry, not just performers, stage managers, everybody. A second thing, to check the socials to see who's coming up next in the Zoom. Who's it going to be? And the last thing, thank you so much for joining me, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
No, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching the episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.